Hi everyone, my name is Karis. Welcome back to my corner of the internet where I talk about books and other things that I enjoy. And today, like everyone else on BookTube, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. But before I begin, the observant among you may be able to tell that I am in a different location. I'm back at my flat. I've been here for a few weeks now, but the videos that I've been putting up quite sporadically until now were all obviously pre-filmed when I was still at my parents' house, but now I've finally got a bit of time to sit down and film, and I'm hoping to get back on top of my schedule and get back into filming videos. If you were around on my channel like when I first started back last August sort of time, then you may recognise the room because I did do a few videos here before going back to my parents for the best part of a year, and I feel like I never really settled into finding a good location and good angle, so it's still very much a work in progress. For now, I thought next to the book trolley would be nice, because my bookshelf is like here, but there's not really any room to sit in front of it, so I thought here on the nice comfy chair would be a good. Also obviously like trying to figure out the lighting and stuff. I do have my ring light on, but I feel like this still looks really dark. It was lovely and sunny up until the second that I wanted to film, so classic, we love that for me. Anyway, I'm just gonna get on with the questions. I feel like everyone is quite familiar with this tag. It's a classic. I did do it when I was on BookTube like the first time around, so I know that it's been going on for years, so I'm very excited to revisit it this year and reflect on all the books that I've been reading. I have read, I should have checked before and now I don't know where my phone is, but I've read like 33 books this year, I want to say, and I've had a really great time doing so. I've read more books this year already than what I did in the entirety of 2020, so that's great, and I'm hoping that I can continue for the rest of the year. My aim was only 50. I'm hoping that I can sort of replicate this and get to around the 70 mark, but we shall see. So yeah, I'll get on with the questions. I've only picked one book for each of them. I've tried to be quite strict with myself. So the first question is, of course, the favourite book that you've read so far this year. And my answer for this is Love After Love by Ingrid Passard, which is funny because I'm pretty sure I read it the same month as Hamnet, and I said then that Hamnet had just beaten it to my favourite of the month. But this is where staying power comes in. I still absolutely love Hamnet and it is probably a very close second, but I just haven't been able to stop thinking about Love After Love since I read it, and I think that's really like boosted it up the list for me. I would now class it as like a favourite of all time. So this book centres around three main characters: a woman called Betty, her son Solo, and another man called Mr. Cheaton who moves in with them and becomes like an extra family member to them. It's set in Trinidad and it just follows their lives throughout several years, and I'm not going to say anything more than that because I feel like it's one that just needs to be experienced. It is sad in places and there are trigger warnings which I will leave in the description in case you want to look at them before going into it. It was just so impactful to me and such a beautiful story, so beautifully written. Can't wait to read more of this author's books in the future. So yeah, favourite one of the year so far. The second question is the best sequel that you've read so far this year. To be honest, I haven't really read that many sequels. I think I've only read sequels to 2 series, but the one that I'm going to pick probably would have been my favourite anyway, and that is Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. I loved this so much, which wasn't a shock because I love the entire series, but I think this one was probably my favourite so far. Either this one or the third one I really enjoy as well, because the third one is set in Paris and I loved that setting. But in the fourth one I particularly liked how the storylines that centred around mental illness, which had sort of been gradually brought into the previous editions of the story, were expanded upon, and I thought the way that Alice dealt with the topics was really sensitive and also very educational as well, and just really useful. Like, as well as the story being so lovely and cute and enjoyable, there were actual like genuine resources woven into there as well, which was just really fantastic. And I just can't wait to see how the story wraps up. Can't wait to see the TV show when that comes out. And if you want to see more of my actual reaction to reading this whole series, then I will leave a link to the vlog that I filmed while I was doing that in the description and the cards. The third question is the newest release that you haven't read yet and want to, and for me this has to be Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Spoiler alert for my June wrap up if you saw my June TBR. This was on it. It has not been read, and I also wanted to read Evelyn Hugo. There's a character in that who also features in this, and that's why I wanted to read that first, and that also hasn't been done. So again, spoiler alert for my July TBR, they're probably both going to be making an appearance, but I've just been highly anticipating this for so long, and you would have thought that that would have meant that I could have got around to reading Evelyn Hugo so that I could get onto this. Like, I know you don't have to, but I really want to read that one first. So yeah, hopefully in July I will be prioritising those 2 books. Question number 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for me, I have a book pre-ordered called Lemon by Kwon Yo-sun. It's translated from the Korean, and ever since I first read about it, it just sounds so good, and I can't wait to receive it and actually get around to reading it, because I've had it on pre-order for like a few months now already, and I think it's coming out in October. I'll just read you the description out because that's easier than me trying to explain it. In the summer of 2002, 19-year-old Kim Hae-on was murdered in what became known as the high school beauty murder. There were 2 suspects, Shin Jeong-jun, who had a rock-solid alibi, and Han Manu, to whom no evidence could be pinned. The case went cold. 17 years passed without justice, and the grief and uncertainty take a cruel toll on her younger sister, Daeon, in particular. Unable to move on with her life, Daeon tries in her own twisted way to recover some of what she's lost, ultimately setting out to find the truth of what happens. Told at different points in time from the perspectives of Daeon and 2 of Hae-on's classmates, Lemon is a piercing psychological portrait that takes the shape of a crime novel and is a must-read novel of 2021. I feel like this book is going to combine a few things that I'm really interested in. Like, I like that sort of high school setting, I do enjoy like crime and mystery sort of books, and I've been really interested in reading translated fiction this year, so I'm really excited to be reading a Korean book for I think the first time. Number 5 is the biggest disappointment, and I've read a few books that I've given a 2 stars to this year. I haven't given any 1 stars, but in terms of disappointment, I went with one that I had really high expectations for, and it fell the furthest, and that was Skin by E.M. Reapy. This book came in, I think, the first Books That Matter subscription box that I bought, and I was really excited for it. It sounded right up my street, because the blurb basically pitches it as this book that's going to be very much about travel and like finding yourself and body positivity, and while there were elements of that in the book, I just didn't think it was done very well, and I actually found some of the language that was used in it not great, and I just did not enjoy reading big portions of it. Again, my thoughts on it are quite hazy now, so I will leave a link in the description and cards to my full like review of it that I did in my wrap up, where I talk about it in more detail. But yeah, I thought that I was going to love it. I thought it was going to be a 5-star and that I was going to relate to the character so much, and I think that's why it disappointed me the most, because I hated the character. Number 6 is the biggest surprise, and for me this has to be Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. Again, this is a surprise, not because I loved it like as much as I've loved a lot of the books I've read this year. In fact, I would say that it's like above the halfway point, but it's not, you know, up there in my top 10, let's say, of the books that I've read so far this year. However, I feel like I didn't think that I was going to like it at all, and then because I did enjoy it quite a lot, and I think I got quite a lot out of it, it was a big surprise for me, and I have found that it has staying power. Like, I've been thinking about it quite a lot, which I really didn't expect to do. So I think it's going to be another one of those that grows on me a little bit, not quite to the extent of like it being a new favourite, but I do think that I probably like it more now than when I finished it, and I just didn't expect it to have any sort of impact on me, so the fact that it has to make it the biggest surprise of the year. I probably should also quickly say what it's about. It's basically set in the 50s, and it's about a journalist who begins working on this storyline focusing around a woman who's said that her daughter is the result of a virgin birth, and then it follows like their storylines coming together. And the thing that I really loved about it was the evocation of the setting. I thought that the sense of like the houses and the furniture and the meals and all that sort of stuff was just so well done, and really helped to really make you feel like you were in this time period. And I think that's why it has stayed with me so much, because I just keep thinking about how clever that is, and I would love to read more books that are similar in that sense. Number 7 is a new favourite author, so either a debut or a new to you. I did struggle with this a little bit, again because I didn't want to mention authors that I've already mentioned or I'm going to mention, but the other reason that I struggled with it a little is because I find it difficult to be like, you are a new favourite author if I've only read one of their books, and there's not many people that I've read more than one book from this year. In fact, I'm not sure if there's any other than Alice Oseman, and obviously I've read Alice Oseman before, but I have gone with someone who I have only read the one book from. I read the first one this year, but I just have a feeling that I'm going to really love her other book, and that is Yaa Gyasi, who wrote Transcendent Kingdom. That was what I read this year, but also wrote Homegoing, which I do have a copy of. A friend lent it to me so long ago, and I really need to get around to reading it. But I just think because I love Transcendent Kingdom, and I've just heard so many good things about Homegoing, and so many people love that, and I think a lot of people love that one more than Transcendent Kingdom. I think that I will love that one as well. I guess you could say that she's the author that I'm most excited to read more from. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, and honestly I do not have any. I don't really read romance. I've read 1.5 romances so far this year, and just in the other books I haven't really made note of anyone. Like, I genuinely can't think of anyone, so I'm gonna pass that question. But number 9 is newest favourite character, and again I did struggle with this quite a bit. I think because I've read a lot of standalones and also a lot of books with not necessarily problematic in all cases, but very like unreliable characters, or just very mixed characters who you aren't necessarily supposed to like. And then obviously I've read things like Heartstopper, but those aren't new characters to me. But the one that I've picked is one that I've read in one book, and they were a side character, but I think that they're going to be a new favourite, and that is Eve Brown from the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. I read Chloe Brown in June, so spoiler for that. But I think Eve's going to be my favourite sister, and I'm very looking forward to reading her book. I just like her personality. I think she's very bubbly, very fun, and I think her book is going to be quite relatable in the sense of like act your age, like being told that you should be more grown up than you are. And I just hope that in the other 2 books in the series she lives up to this accolade that I have now given to her. Question 10 is a book that made you cry, and again, Love After Love is the one that made me cry the most, but as I'm only picking one for each question and I don't want to repeat answers, I'm going to go with Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, which is fitting seeing as that was my second favourite book of the year. As I said, I clearly just like crying. I mean, yeah. But yeah, this was just incredibly written, so beautiful and poignantly written, and the last part of the book, like a good number of pages, I was having a little cry to myself. Just the way that Maggie O'Farrell managed to convey the sense of grief and all these different emotions, but without, you know, being so in your face about it, just through all these little details, that really got to me and really hit home. Number 11 is a book that made you happy, and again, this was quite difficult. Like, I haven't read too many happy books, but the one that I ended up picking was The Shelf by Helly Acton. Not because the story was super happy, like it wasn't super sad, but it did deal with a situation where you wouldn't particularly be happy if you were in it. But the reason why I picked it is because I just had such a fun time reading it, and because of that I felt happy. So this book centers around a woman called Amy who basically gets dumped live on this TV show called The Shelf, which is sort of like a Big Brother style game show, and then she's left in this house with 6 other women, and it's televised, and there are a lot of tasks that they have to go through in order to compete to be the keeper, so the most sort of desirable person to be in a relationship with, essentially. And just a lot of the commentary in this I really loved, but it was also such a fun and quick read as well, so that's why I've picked it. Question 12 is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year, and I'm going to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I don't have this with me because, oh, in fact I do have it. I did bring it to here. I didn't leave it at home, but I now can't be bothered to go and pick it up, so everyone knows what it looks like. I'll put it on the screen. This was gifted to me for my birthday by my lovely friend Louise, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to, because I've never read a V.E. Schwab book before, and it's just so pretty. Yeah, I feel like that's quite a basic answer, but it is the prettiest one that I've received or bought myself. And the final question is to name a book that you need to read before the end of the year, and this is where I am going to break my own rules a little and pick 2 things. They're both massive, but if I don't finish these by the end of the year, I'm going to be so annoyed with myself. So the first one is this. I've mentioned it in so many videos towards the start of this year and then just stopped because I wasn't picking it up. It's The Eighth Life of Brilka by Nino Haratichvili. This is translated from, it's actually translated from German, but it's written by a Georgian author who wrote it in German, and it's set primarily in Georgia and spans several generations of the same family, which is definitely a buzzword for me. I have found that I love like intergenerational stories. Georgia is a country that I'm fascinated by. I was meant to visit there last year and this year, obviously being cancelled both times, fingers crossed for 2022, but I really wanted to read this to get a more in-depth sense of just the country and the history, because it starts in the 1800s, I want to say. So you do learn a lot about the country through various periods of history. So yeah, the only reason why I haven't read any more of this is because it's long and I'm intimidated, and there's been so many other things that I've wanted to pick up. But I genuinely think maybe because I'm ahead with my goal, like in not July but maybe September sort of time, I should just be like, I'm not reading anything else, I'm just going to read this until I'm done, and then we'll see how I go with it. I have read 90 pages, so I've only got like 800 to go. I don't think I'll restart it. I might listen to the first bit on audio to like catch it with where I am and then carry on reading, because I have pre-ordered it on Audible. It keeps getting pushed back as well, which is another reason why I haven't carried on, because I do think having the audiobook would help. But yeah, we'll see with this one. And then just quickly, the final thing was Six Tudor Queens, Anne Boleyn by Alison Weir. Again, I've started this and have not finished it. In fact, I've read up to page 90 again. Maybe it's just something about the 90 page mark with these books. I would love to finish this. Again, the reason I haven't is because it's quite a slow read, and then I was going on holiday and thought that I would want to take like quicker things. But I do think in July I need to reprioritize this and pick it up so I can get on with the rest of the series, which I also have. So someone shout at me if I don't do that, please. So that was it. Those are all of my answers. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have done this tag, then let me know in the comments and I will go and watch it, or just let me know your answers to any of the questions. I would love to chat with you if you agree or disagree with me on any of these, or just leave me an emoji in the comments to let me know that you've watched the video. Other than that though, that is it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're all keeping safe and staying well, and I will see you again next time. Bye!